Williams Realty Partners, Johnny Camp coming to you again with the fourth video in our 5-video series about the buyer's point of view, and today we're going to be talking about the appraisal. Again, this is a reading from an email that I sent out to all my buyers. I'm going to read from this and tell you about my experience. Just about every time someone finances a property or gets a mortgage for it, they're going to have to do an appraisal. From time to time, there will be what's called an appraisal waiver. At the time of the making of this video in 2026, you're going to see a lot less of those, and from your perspective, you kind of hope they do that. But again, it's very rare. A lot of times they have to be putting 20% down, has to be in a particular neighborhood, and so on and so on. They have to have really good credit, and they have to have other factors. But again, most of the time you're going to have an appraisal. So the appraisal will be scheduled immediately. One thing you want to try to do is try to get the lender to maybe go ahead and schedule that, but you don't want to have them go out until after the inspection is done, because you don't want to pay $500 or whatever the cost may be for an appraisal that you're not going to use, because you could have a terrible inspection come back with foundation trouble, roof trouble, or whatever, and you've already had the appraisal done and that money is gone to you. That there is no recourse. Same thing if the buyer and seller can't come to an agreement. If the appraisal comes in low and you have to terminate as the buyer needs to know that that money is not refundable. Neither is the inspection money. Okay. Your lender will reach out to you soon for payment. They almost always collect that up front, and the buyer needs to know that. FYI, if the appraisal comes in below the purchase price, the only way to continue with the transaction would be for the seller to lower the price, or for the buyer to make up the difference in cash, or for the buyer and the seller to meet somewhere in the middle. I've seen this multiple times where if you're representing the buyer and the seller just will not budge. You can also dispute it, which we talked about in the seller's point of view, but it's very difficult to do that many times. Also, if we have negotiated for the seller to pay closing costs and they must lower the sales price as a result of an appraisal, be prepared for the seller to ask for those to be removed from the contract. So if the seller's paying from the initial contract $5,000 in closing costs, but the appraisal comes in low and they have to lower the price $10,000, they're more than likely going to ask for that money back. Now, you don't have to give that up, but they may say, I'm not lowering the price at all if you don't give up those closing costs. So it just depends on the house, it depends on the buyer, the seller, and this is one of the things that we're paid to do, is negotiate and work through that. What I do, and this is from the point of view of the buyer that we've gone under contract, I'm saying this here in the email, I have looked at the comparables and I do not see any reason for alarm, but as I always tell my clients, I can never predict what an appraiser will come back with, and that's just the truth, and the buyers need to know that. The appraisal for government-issued loans like FHA, VA, and USDA, those come with an extra degree of scrutiny for soundness and safety. So, for example, if deck rails are too far apart, or there aren't handrails for stairs or downspout extensions or something like that. Sometimes if you have any exposed or rotten wood on the house at all, that has to be remedied before you can close. And I've seen that on conventional loans as well. If the appraiser comes back with items that need to be fixed, they will have to be completed by the buyer or seller before the loan can close. That is negotiated in the FHA, the USDA, and the VA loan exhibit. There's usually a limit of about $500 that people put in there that the seller will be responsible for. Anything above that, you have to work out. So if there's $1,000 worth of painting and rotten wood that needs to be fixed, it's not a given that the seller will have to do it. And so you'll have to work through those issues. Now, if this does happen, if the appraiser writes up something that has to be fixed, the appraiser will charge the buyer an additional $150 to $200 to come out and reinspect. From time to time, they will allow you to take a picture and send it in, but most of them require that they come out and make sure that that work has been done. Rarely have I seen these types of repairs go above $500, but I have seen that. I've seen one that was around $1,200, another one around $1,500, so you need to know that's a possibility. Hopefully, if there are any issues, we can work them out quickly. The main thing you need to know from this video is that you need to prepare your buyers for what could happen. The main things: If the appraisal comes in low, the seller does not have to lower the price, and if you have to terminate, you don't get your money back. Now, you will get your earnest money back if it happens within the appraisal contingency period, but you will not get your inspection money back and you will not get your appraisal money back. Know that there could be repairs that the appraiser requires before they can close, and that it's going to cost $150 to $200 to come back out. And again, a lot of times this isn't a problem, but from time to time it comes up and the buyers need to be aware that it could happen. Thanks for watching.